sen regatem yezamaide. Amesha senta ushatra ulango yezamaide. Gatao senta natushatra shonim yezamaide. Unavaidim gatam shonim sheratum yezamaide. Ushkavaidim gatam shonim sheratum yezamaide. Ventramendium gatam shonim sheratum yezamaide. Shatram gatam shonim sheratum yezamaide. Ishtim gatam shonim sheratum yezamaide. Shonam vanguim surau sentau pravashio. Shomi tavyemi uvyemi yezamaide. Manyao visyao dakyumao dakyusrotanao. Vispanam jao gam purinam pravashinam ida yezamaide. Pravashim hamyam purimandao aditam ja Ishtam ja, Krishtam ja, Krausishtam ja, Krasvishtam ja, Ukrapram ja, Shantam ja. Shonam Vanguram, Sventam Pravashio Yazamaide. Yao Meshanam, Sventanam, Setanam, Verditoitranam. Verditvam, Avyam, Lakmanam, Aunam, Yoyam, Shono. Poyunam, 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 Tasvarusham, Tasvarusham, Vanemcha, Pravasimcha, Yasamaye. Yoyam Sharmavne, Deustam, Vanem, Maye. Yoyam Sharmavne, Deustam, Pravasim, Yasamaye. Ratsustres Vitamena Shono Simcha Pravasimcha Yezamaide. Kavoyin Vitas Shono Pravasim Yezamaide. Visat Vasres Ratustris Shono Pravasim Yezamaide. Navana Zristanam Ida Shonam Shoninam Cha. Om Cha Denam Cha Vatam Cha Vanam Cha Pravasim Cha Yezamaide. Yo Shevam Rem Ayivavyo Shonimyo Pravasimyo. Yavo Rinam Ida Isnam Rano Yezamaide. Yao Shonam Pravasio. Ismanam Atyanane. Navana Zimshanam. Evishanam Ekra Payinam. Ekriyanam Nanam Elinam. Ida Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Ismanam Ekra Payinam. Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Vispanam Ekriyanam Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Vispanam Naram Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Vispanam Naram Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Vispanam Atrayudanam Shonam Yezamaide. Adakyunam Cha Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Udyakyunam Cha Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Naram Cha Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Elinam Cha Shonam Pravasio Yezamaide. Vistau Shonam Vishurau Sentau Pravasio Yezamaide. Yao Cha Kemanam Asosyatat Vedkanam. pravashio shonam yezamaide. Shonam mangui surau spentau pravashio yezamaide. Bismillah shono yezata yezamaide. Udirinem paitiratum pradatiram takimem cha paitiratum. Yingira kama yasne paiti vango mazdao veta shatacha. Yongam cha tascha tauscha yezamaide. Yata umerio ataradu shasharachita cha. Vangyush dasavaningo shotinanam vangyush mandai. Shotrin cha aurai ayim dregugyo taradvastarim. Yata umerio ataradu shasharachita cha. Vangyush dasavaningo shotinanam vangyush mandai. Shotrin cha aurai ayim dregugyo taradvastarim. Yasnim cha vamem cha jasya zavre cha finami. Ure mazda ure bato kanangato mitvinam spentanam. Gatavyo spentavyo ratu shastravyo shnonivyo. Onavevyo gatvyo ustavevyo gatvyo. Spentavyo gatvyo vaishnavyo gatvyo. Vaishnoish gatvyo. Ashonam, Pravachinam, Ugranam, Vaiturnam, Audiotreshanam, Pravachinam, Navanestishanam, Pravachinam. Ashemu, Vaistamasti, Ustasti, Ustamai, Yadashai, Vaistayashem. Amayadasya, Karanasya, Amayadamo, Devatatim, Amayadamo, Vasavale, Amayadamo, Veretrim. Amai Ishlim Urushkasham, Amai Asnam Tim Prasantim, Amai Dregam Dregojitim, Amai Vishtim Omashonam, Dojangim Visvokatim, Atala Samyat Yata Prinami, Shlimbu Vaishim Asti Ushkasti Ushkamai, Yadashai Vaishai Hashem. Azongrem Beshiznam, Bebre Beshiznam. Azongrem Beshiznam, Bebre Beshiznam. Azongrem Beshiznam, Bebre Beshiznam. Shimbu Vaishnemasti Ustasti Ustamai, Yadashai Vaishtai Hashem. Jasameh Vange Mazda, Jasameh Vange Mazda. Amen. Daste urode vetragne agoranate Venyalosho vratato Ramukashe Vishparo Kere Tarato Shama Etevreo Yasyasi Spentomenium Vaje Kadate Zavane Kanai Zavane Trigo Kadate Shimbu Vaishnavasti Ustasti Ustamai Yadashai Vaishtai Hashem. Yevemos Gunav Gudarashara Kunam Shiravan Shamra Amkefe Amalean Aftakeshwar Zamin Pana Rudrana Koshit Bala Gunda Teresad Ashoketeti Samyak Yata Prinami Shimbu Vaishnavasti Ustasti Ustamai Yadashai Vaishtai Hashem. Will everyone please rise and we'll all recite the Mandagi together? Asmao Guna Pate Peshemanu Ashonam Bungui Surao Pentao Pravashio Yazamaide Ashone Shembo Vaishnemasti Ustasti Ustamai Yadashai Vaishtai Hashem Azama Guna Pate Peshemanum Ashonam Ongui Surao, Spentao Pravashio Yazamaide, Ashone, Shemu, Vaislemasi, Ushamai, Yetashai, Vaisai Hashem, Azamaguna, Patef Shemanum, Ashonam Vangui Surao, Pentao Pravashio Yazamaide, Ashone, Shemu, Vaishemasi, Ushamai, Yetashai, Vaisai Hashem, Amai Rasya, Nasya, Amai Tanvo, Davatatem, Amai Tanvo, Vazavare, Amai Tanvo, Veretrem, Amai Ishim Purush Akram, Amai Asnam Chit Pradati, Amai Vedigam Vego Chitim, Amai Vishim Om Shonam, Rosham Yem Viskokatre, Katal Jamyam Yata Prinami, Shemu Vaishemasi Rushasi Rushamai Yetashai Vaisai Hashem Adon Grem Veshetnam Evre Veshetnam Adon Grem Veshetnam Evre Veshetnam Adon Grem Veshetnam Evre Veshetnam Shemu Vaishemasi Rushasi Rushamai Yetashai Vaisai Hashem, Yesane Vangem Azal, Yesane Vangem Azal, Yesane Vangem Azal, Amen Tashem Rode, Veliane Urodate, Venkyasha Upratato, Ramno Kasre, Vaishwaro Geye, Dardato Yesh Damam, Ete Viveo Yetasti Sentomenium, Swashe Kadate Zavane Karnai, Ravane Lego Kadate, Shemu Vaishemasi Ushtasi Ushtamai, Yevashai Vaisai Hashem, Yevemos Ram Sudatnara, Ram Shiravan Ushamra, Am Kerfe Amavyane Aplikeshwar, Zamin Pana, Rudrana, Koshibala, Muktad Esat, Shlok Medesi, Tazamyan, Yapinami, Shemu, Vaishemasi, Ushtasi, Ushtamai, Yedashai, Vaishai Hashem. We will now observe 30 seconds of silence in the name of our beloved departed ones. Thank you. You can be seated now. Thank you.
Please be seated, please. First of all, thank you very much for coming in large numbers for the Shenshai third Gatha. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Also, the Stum prayers were recited by Edward Nowroz Atia, Edward Kerman Katra, and Edward Medbad Dastu. Thank you. And you also, everybody recited that. Thank you. Thank you. Also would like to thank Shamat Katra for streaming, and also scrolling the script down. Thank you. Thank you. So today it is my great pleasure to welcome and introduce today's guest speaker, Professor Enrico Raffaelli. He is a respected scholar and an accomplished speaker with deep interest in Zoroastrian faith, its history, traditions, and teachings. Please come, Professor.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm very late. I came late. No. Otherwise, No. You say something? Yeah, sorry. You said? Sorry, I came.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. I sent it.
So we will change our schedule a little bit. We'll call Manaz on the stage to thank everybody. Manaz, are you there? She's in the kitchen busy. Yeah. Manaz is sending her representative. No, actually she is a co-chair. I'm just joking. She is a co-chair also of the Muktad committee. Thank you, Tashneen.
Hello, everyone. Firstly, I just want to thank our mobeds, obviously Hoshang, Maybad, Karaman, Navroz. Thank you all for, devoting your time, energy, prayers for all of us. And I want to say thank you to today's head cook, Fred Lahair, and his team of volunteers. And thank you to all of our sponsors. Today's sponsors for the evening are the Chatia family, the Chichkur family, and Perrin Katrak. Thank you to Sam Gandhi. He's the first one to wake up, first one to go to sleep every single day. Last one to go to sleep, sorry. He works really, really hard. He's running around. So if you see Sam, please, give him your gratitude and appreciation. Today's dinner is chicken keema and soya keema for the vegetarians, and there's some leftover shrimp khichdi sauce and veg khichdi sauce from lunchtime. Non-veg food will only be served on the side counter, and veg food will only be served on the front counter, okay? And we're just going to serve food in around 10 minutes. Thank you. 10 minutes after his speech.
Hello, everyone. While we have a captive audience, my name is Armaiti Homa Vazir, and I am the chair of the ZSO Library Committee. We have an outstanding group of volunteers that come together every month, sometimes twice a month, to catalog our extensive collection upstairs. Today, the library will be open. If you want to sign out books and you are a member of the ZSO, you are most welcome to sign out books. We have almost 1,000 in our collection. We are working on building a more robust series for our kids, so please stay tuned for announcements for that. Last year, we launched our speaker series for the first time, in which we had several distinguished professors from the University of Toronto, including Professor Raffaeli, and many others who have come to speak. And we hope to continue that tradition this year with our speaker series as well. What was amazing to see is what we thought would be a small group of people who would be interested was actually bringing in 4 or 5 times the number that we had expected. So we hope that you continue to show your support. We're looking at bringing in Zoroastrian authors of recently published books, of professors visiting from London, from other places in the world, and from University of Toronto. So stay tuned for the roster and do come out and show your support for the speaker series. If there are any books that you are interested in, please see myself. Dinaz Dotiwalas is here. Kaina Sidwa is here. There's many of us from the library committee, and we'd be happy to help you. Okay, we're good? Thank you.
Okay, I can start. Sorry about the technical. It's a bit loose. Okay. Thanks for inviting me. Last year I came and I gave a talk about a different topic, but it was still related to rituals. So this year they asked me to talk about the rituals connected to the festival that's taking place. That's known among the Parsis as Muktad, but I honestly couldn't find an explanation for the name, so I don't know what this name derives from, but it's a name that's been used in modern times among the Parsis. The traditional names in Pahlavi, in the Pahlavi language, as you read there, is Fravardigan. So these are the days of the Fravashis. So you know that the Muktad celebrates the coming of the souls of the dead, honors the souls of the dead. The tradition has identified the souls of the dead with the Fravashis. And later I will explain a little bit more what the Fravashis are, because the Fravashis originally, their status was a bit more complex than just the soul of the dead. Anyway, you can change. So the next thing I want to say, first I will make a brief overview. So I want to make a brief overview of the traditional practices among the Parsis connected to the Muktad before talking about the Fravashis and about the ritual, the hymn of the Fravashis that's recited in some of these traditional rituals. So first of all, what is the basis of the Muktad and in general of the celebration of the souls of the deceased in Zoroastrianism? So as you all know, I guess, the soul in Zoroastrianism is immortal, but not only is the soul immortal, it also keeps a connection with the living word. And so, hope they can hear. So with the living word. So during the days of the Muktad, it's supposed the soul is imagined to come back to the word and take pleasure, if I can use this expression, from the honor that it receives, she receives, it's actually feminine, the Fravashi receives from the living. So there is a sort of mutual relationship between the living paying homage to the Fravashis, and the Fravashis also in return giving some spiritual and in some cases material gifts to the living. You can change, and I will show you a passage from the hymn of the Fravashis that's called the Fravardin Yashta, that's the Pahlavi title, that pretty much expresses this concept. So we worship the Fravashis, that's the first verse, and then the Fravashis speak, and these are the Fravashis when they come during the Muktad. The Avesta name is Amaspait Maedaya. And so who will praise, who will worship, who will laud, who will propitiate, who will welcome us with hands holding meat and clothes? To which one of us will he give this gift that there may be for him inexhaustible food forever and ever? Then whoever will worship them with hands holding meats and clothes, him the strong Fravashis of the righteous bless when they are satisfied, not injured, not treated with hostility. So you treat them well, and they will treat you well. That's the message of these verses. And one thing that I want to say before talking again, as I already announced, a bit more about the Fravashis is the ritual practices. So one practice that we see here, flowers, you can change. So we can see here flowers. And so I attached to this slide a picture from, actually it's a temple in Mumbai where flowers are displayed. So flowers are supposed to be displayed in religious centers or temples, and also in a special place in the house during the Muktad days. Here I have proposed a couple of explanations for the use of the flowers during this festival that relates to the fact that in general flowers are very commonly used in rituals, funerary rituals. So if you go to a Christian cemetery, you will also see flowers. So why flowers? Why flowers are such a universal, have such a sort of universal or at least very common connection with the funerary rituals, with remembrance of the dead? So I propose two explanations that I also propose in my courses. So one is so this, in a sense, is a sort of instinctive way to contrast the bad odor that comes from a dead body. And so you use flowers, in a sense, to overcome that odor. But then there is a more spiritual and less, I would say, material, a less trivial explanation for this, for the use of flowers. So the flower is something that displays beautiful colors, as in a sense symbolizes the continuation of life. In the case of Zoroastrianism and of other religions, it's a continuation of the life of the soul in after death. And also it continues, the dead person, not only does his or her soul continue to live in the afterlife, but it also continues to live in the memory of the living. So a flower is, in a sense, a symbol of that. Now, briefly, I want to overview the traditional practices connected to the among the Parsis to the Muktad. You can turn. So first of all, there are some rituals that are performed, that were and are in some cases performed at the temple when possible. One is the Bhaj ritual, which is a longish ritual that can be performed. Traditionally, it has been performed in a special area of the temple. Jashan ritual can be held in a religious center or also in a private house. And then there is this Satum prayer that is traditionally recited by the priests at the house of the faithful. Finally, there is also another prayer that's called the Farokshi, and it's also done by the priest at the house of the faithful. A couple of words that you can turn on the Satum, and then a couple of words on the Farokshi. So the Satum is, again, a prayer, and it's called this way because it starts with this Avestan word that is Taomi, I praise. So it's the beginning of the prayer that constitutes the core of the Satum prayer. It's the 26th chapter of the Yasna. It's a chapter where the Fravashis of several entities, human and not human, are praised. And again, there are also some other portions that follow. You can turn page. This Taomi prayer. There is a dibache in the Pasand language in which the name of the deceased person is recited. And part of this performance of the ritual, which is quite simple, it's a simple ritual, has nothing to do with the yasna, that is not a simple ritual. There is also the burning of some, I didn't mention here in the slide, but it's happened. So the burning of some wood in the fire, and there is an offer of wood made by the priest and by the relatives of the deceased who remember their dear ones. So the Farokshi next. Farokshi, so now the name Fravashi is an Avestan name. You may know the Fravashis under different other names, and one of these names is Farohar. There is also another name that we find in Indian manuscripts that is Farokshi, and after this name is named the prayer. So These prayers basically formed by the recitation of the Satum prayer that I just talked about, and of the Fravardin Yasht. The Fravardin Yasht, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to say what it is. So, but first I want to introduce, you can change, the Fravashes. So I've been mentioning the name Fravashes many times. So who are the Fravashes? So modern tradition, and less modern too, has identified the Fravashes with the soul, period. But the Zoroastrian soul is very rich. So historically, the spiritual part of the individual comprised the Fravashes, but not only. So on the one hand, we had the soul proper, that was called Urvan. Then we had the Fravashi. Then we had the Daena, that you may all know, because it's the part of the soul that represents the conscience, that meets the individual after death and leads the person to heaven, hopefully. And but the Fravashis is just one component, traditionally, of the Zoroastrian soul. Later, it's been simplified, the vision of the soul, to make it so that there's just the soul, and it's called Fravashis. So, Fravashis, the name, there's been countless explanations on what it means, but the most likely explanation, I think, is that it's formed on a verb that is var, that means to choose. So basically, the Fravashis represents the part of the soul that makes a choice. The choice to fight for good, for the good, fight for Asha. This is what the Fravashis originally represented. So, speaking of the word representation, so sorry, here I have a lot of the slides and I have a cable that's covering my view on what comes next. But you can, oh no, it's okay, okay, you know, I'll probably just hold the mic. I think it's easier for me, yes. Good. So yes, you can change, and I can give a little bit more information. Speaking of choice, the choice to fight for good, there is an interesting myth that is told in Pahlavi text, Zoroastrian Pahlavi text in the Middle Persian language, that says, at the beginning of time, Ahura Mazda asked the Fravashis that already existed, because the Fravashis, I've spoken of the fact that they are kind of incarnated in the body of a person, and then when the person dies, they leave the body. But they also, the Fravashis are also conceived as independent beings. Not all the Fravashis are in the body of a human. They are also independent. Anyway, the Fravashis at the beginning of time, Ahura Mazda asked them, do you want to stay with me and just not meddle in the matters of the war, be protected, or you want to go to the war and fight? And they said, we'll fight. So this is the myth that's told in the Pahlavi literature, and it corresponds also to the idea that the Fravashis is a spiritual entity or portion of the soul that makes a choice. You can turn. Just a quick notation, just for the sake of completeness, is that the Fravashis are important in the Zoroastrian calendar, not only because they are celebrated during the last 10 days of the year, and that's, I've talked about the Muktad, but also among Iranian Zoroastrians there is a celebration of the Fravashis. But there is also a day and a month that are dedicated to the Fravashis, first month, 19th day, and then also there is the fourth Ga of the day that is protected by various spiritual entities headed by the Fravashis. So this is just to emphasize their importance in the Zoroastrian daily, monthly, and yearly life. I know that this information will contradict what many of you know and think, but so I know that the tradition in modern times has identified the Farohar or Fravashi with a winged figure over a disc. So now this is a figure that we find first in monuments of the Achaemenid Empire, Persepolis, and not only. We find it on numerous supports from the Achaemenid times. Now, the identification of this figure with the Fravashis is, to my knowledge, is something modern, and I'm not sure if it's something that actually was done by Western scholars first. I know of a Western scholar who supported this identification, but anyway, what matters is that scholars would not really agree that this is actually a Farohar or Fravashi. they would rather think that this is a representation of Ahura Mazda in the Achaemenid art. But what matters for me, what I always say to when I have Zoroastrian students or when I interact with Zoroastrian people, do not be misled by scholars. So if the tradition says something, just keep believing it. It's not like I don't have, and I don't think any scholar has the right to overrule what a person, a faithful, believes. Anyway, just so you know, these scholars would not agree that this figure is a Fravashi. Also because, I didn't say it, but I mentioned it in the slides, the Fravashis are feminine, so this is a bearded figure. Anyway, so this is what I wanted to say. And there is, aside from this image, there's not, no one has been able to identify a Fravashi, a representation of the Fravashis. In the hymn that I'm going to introduce now, the Fravardin Yasht, the 13th of the 22 hymns, it is said that the Fravashis fly as if they had wings, but we don't know that they were really imagined to have wings. Anyway, so this was as far as the representations are concerned. I've been told to speak briefly. I don't know if I'm being brief. I have a few more minutes to talk about this hymn. Again, 13, we have 22 yashts. And they're all dedicated to different entities, except for 2 consecutive hymns that are dedicated to Sarush, Saraosh, Rosh, however you call him. The 13th hymn is the longest one, and it's dedicated to the Fravashis. It's a wonderful piece, I would say, of human literature. Unfortunately, it's not easy to access it, because everything that's in Avestan cannot be easily accessed, although it's been translated a few times, and at least a couple of translations are intelligible. So usually translations of Avestan texts are made by scholars, so they're very pedestrian, not poetic, but we have some decent translations of these texts. It's very long, over 140 stanzas, which means groups of verses, so many words. And again, it's rich in contents, but while preparing for this presentation, I've actually reread it, and I pretty much figured out that we can divide it into 2 parts. You can turn. So there is a first part that is more mythological, and a second part that is more like praise of Fravashis. So we praise the Fravashis, so and so. So the first part, which is approximately the first 70 stanzas, meaning groups of verses, so they talk, it's mixed. The topics are very mixed. It's not like a logical sequence of topics, because it's, after all, a poetic text. It's in verses, so it doesn't need to follow a sequence like a tale or a novel, right? So anyway, so they explain how at the beginning of time, the Fravashis helped Ahura Mazda organize the world, to separate heaven from earth, and they helped Ahura Mazda to help the waters to move, the plants to grow. And also there is this interesting reference to the fact that without their help, the waters wouldn't have moved, the plants wouldn't have grown, and the celestial bodies would have stood still. I'm saying it's interesting because the later myths after the Avestan period, the period when Zoroastrian spoke Avestan, later the condition of lack of movement is considered something positive. So in an ideal world, the waters don't flow. And then Ahriman comes and everything has to start running and moving. But there is this interesting detail in the Fravardin Yasht of a condition of lack of movement that is negative. Only thanks to the Fravashis, they manage the stuff starts to move. Anyway, so thanks to them also the waters flow in the present world, not only at the beginning of time. At the present world there is growing of plants, and also they protect the various parts of the world, they protect the various regions populated by the Zoroastrians. And so they protect also the stars, so they have a strong warlike attributes. So they're like warriors who fight for the cause of good, and they're very effective in doing this. Also, they help children being born and women become pregnant. So they have a lot of qualities. We can continue. Among the other things, they help the rain to come down to the earth. And when I said the warlike feature, I mean that they help in battle. Nowadays, hopefully, we don't need this help, but traditionally in the ancient societies, there were many wars or constant strives, and so the help of the Fravashes was really very welcome. The other thing is that the Fravashes have the quality to heal people. There are also some invocations to the Fravash that you can recite. Within the Pravardin Yash, there is a formula that you can recite for healing. And also the verses I was reading at the beginning of the presentation is in the first part of the Pravardin Yash. It says they come to the world during the Festival of the Dead, the last 10 days of the year. So I have another couple of slides, if you can, yes, turn. So the second part of the Pravardin Yash is a little less interesting from the point of view of the myths, but it's still interesting because it contains a lot of names of illustrious, famous people of the tradition, not only Zoroaster, also Zoroaster, but it mentions also. Well, before talking about the Fravashes of humans, I have to say that there are Fravashes also of spiritual beings that are praised in this second part of the hymn, the Fravashes of the plants and of water, so there are Fravashes of natural elements, you can turn. And yes, then most interestingly, we have a list of human figures that in a sense represents a sort of history of the ancient, of the old Avestan community, because it starts with the first human being whose name was Gaio Maretan, Gaiomar din Pahlavi, but then he was just the first human. He was not the first Zoroastrian. He was just a good person, but he was not fully good like Zoroaster. Then it continues with Zoroaster, who was the one who received the religion from Ahura Mazda and diffused it to the world. Then after him we have Vishtaspa, and then a lot of names that we have no idea who they are, but these are probably, some of them might be mythical characters, but some of them are for sure human beings who were the fathers and mothers of the tradition, because importantly, this hymn demonstrates that the ancient Zoroastrian community also held women in high regard, because there are a lot of female figures who are mentioned. The Fravashes of many illustrious, famous Zoroastrian women are also praised. The list of the Fravashes ends with a final savior whose name is Astvat Ereta, the final savior. Last slide. So anyway, what I want to emphasize, to conclude and to connect to what I said at the beginning, is that the list of a series of Fravashes of dead people from the older tradition demonstrates that the Fravashes, so the cult of the Fravashi was connected with the cult of the dead already in the early phase of the history of the religion. So it's a tradition that continues nowadays, meaning literally today. And also, interestingly, this connection with the cult of the dead is indicated by this final wish. This is actually the conclusion of the hymn, so that's really what really is supposed to be stuck in the memory of the faithful. This wish that for the Fravashes to come and to be happy, to come to the houses and to be happy when they leave the houses of the faithful. So my talk is over, so thank you for your attention, and so there are a few things, technical stuff, so when I'm in, thanks. When I teach, I actually give technical information at the beginning. Today I give it at the end. So I just want to say, like Armaiti was mentioning earlier, there is a lot of activity going on here, but there's also a lot of activities on Zoroastrianism going on outside of Toronto. Well, just I want to mention that a friend and colleague from SOAS in London is currently visiting what's left of the Parsi communities, Zoroastrian communities in East Africa. I just got to know that there are 2 Parsis left in Zanzibar, but a few more in other countries of East Africa. In December, we'll have a winter school of Zoroastrian studies in California. And my courses on Zoroastrianism at the University of Toronto continue. I will offer the course starting from September, just so you know. People above 65, they can audit courses for free. So in the past, I've welcomed Parsis and also Zoroastrian, Iranian Zoroastrians to my courses. You're welcome to my courses. I mean, auditors don't need any authorization. Okay, that's it. Thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Thank you very much, Professor Enrico, for your informative talk. We really appreciate it. Also, thank you for your time from your busy schedule and coming over here and giving us a talk. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Please join us for dinner also.